Welcome everyone to the Kanata Hintonburg Small Business Network webinar. This is our 5th webinar in our webinar series that we started offering 6 weeks ago in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And when we figured that we won't be holding our monthly workshops for quite a while. We are so thrilled to have with us today two of Ottawa's most inspiring business leaders and senior entrepreneurs, Karla Briones and Steve Cody.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Oh, welcome. We're so happy to have you with us. I'll just share a little bit about you with the people we have here, though I know you're known to a lot of us, if not to all of us. Karla Briones is the owner of Freshii Westboro, Global Pet Foods Kanata Hintonburg, and Karla Briones Consulting. Steve Cody has founded more than a dozen very successful businesses and is now the co-founder of Ruckify. In our conversation today, what we want to do is really get together to learn the effect of disruptive forces like the COVID-19 pandemic on businesses and entrepreneurs in particular, and discover together ways to pivot and to adapt to in times of uncertainty to make some wins. So I'm going to start by asking our guests, Karla and Steve, to tell us a little bit about their businesses and how they were operating prior COVID-19, and we take it from there.
Steve, you want
to start with you, Karla.
Okay. I was pulling a Steve here.
I wasn't saying anything.
So how was I operating before? So on the restaurant side of things, it's a fairly new restaurant, so 3.5 years old. So I was in the up and up trend. I was tracking 15% year-over-year increase, which for the food industry, that's actually pretty good. So I was really excited. I was like closing down like really big contracts for catering for hospitals and whatnot. And then COVID hit. So it was like overnight that it was a huge hit basically. And then on the pet food stores, those are actually fairly recession proof. I've had those ones for almost 11 years, the Kanata one actually this week. And so those ones were good. They were they're very stable to this point, or to this day as well. Like they probably have lost maybe 15% sales. So fairly recession proof. But the restaurant definitely is the one that has been suffering the most.
Thanks. Steve?
Yeah, so probably I can give two good relevant examples. So Ruckify, when all this was happening, we were launching in Austin. We had about $700,000 set aside for marketing in that city over 6 months. We were a team of 81 people, and everything changed on March 13th. Came back from Austin. So Bruce and I, Bruce Linton is my partner, and we didn't know what to expect out of all this. So unfortunately, we had to let half our team go on the Monday, and we pulled back operating costs by about 68%. And, really weren't sure what was going to happen. But what's ended up happening is, that marketing budget's gone from where we were spending $200,000 to $300,000 a month on marketing overall as a company. And I don't think we've spent $5,000 since COVID started. And what our team is doing is we're getting into community groups. We're reaching, we've partnered with United Way. We're helping the community. And just by doing all that, our business rate, we're up about 400%. So, Ruckify is a marketplace where you can, whatever you have, you can make it available, put it on there, make it available for rent, and you can make a little bit of money. So, so that's kind of needed. Cody Party, we've had that for 21 years. That's a different story. There's not a lot of parties happening right now. We don't expect a lot of parties to be happening. So completely different approach there. We really decided that we would go into hibernation mode and kind of wait out the storm, and and then kind of ramping out of that storm. We'll want to make sure our transactional kind of costs are as low as possible so that we can compete and people will want to use us. So two different approaches to two different businesses.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing this with us. And we can definitely see that both of you have businesses that have been affected by the COVID. So you appreciate that acting fast and pivoting is the key to survival and to having wins. But before we get into business continuity and how you made that happen, I want to go back to March 13th. I'm happy you remember the date, Steve. And tell me a little bit about your feeling and your thoughts that day. What did you come home telling yourselves?
Well, for myself, actually, on March 13, I was on a plane from Cuba back to Ottawa. So I was kind of like a little bit afraid. The airport was full of people and in panic. So I came home and it hit me the following day. And yeah, I think my first reaction was, oh my God. Like I saw the scope of the enormity of what this could mean for the businesses, and I couldn't help it, but I just like broke down crying with my husband, and it's just like there's no way I'm gonna be able to get out of this, and yeah, so I definitely broke down. I definitely had the big ugly cry with the snot coming out, and it's just once I let that go, it was like, okay, so now I let it go, it's time to get working. So I think it was sort of like a good 24 hours of, drama. And then I kind of allow myself to get into that space. But then after 24 hours, it's like, okay, Karla, like time to get on the road. Like what can you do? Like, let's get into action. Let's pivot. Like what can be done? Because nothing's gonna happen if I just stay on the bed crying and sucking my thumb. So yeah, so then that's when decided to pivot, and I think that'll be the next question. But yeah, so I've definitely added a different arm into the restaurant, which is groceries. I never thought that I would be in the grocery business, but now I am, and it's been crazy. But it's been profitable, and it's been something that's sustained the business, and that's actually grown our sales, because our sales plummeted to 80% overnight, and then we've been able to steadily increase them, and we're holding steady at 50, which is still horrible, but it's enough to keep us in the game still.
Good. And you're right, we're going to get to that part of where you came out of this 24-hour shock to let's put a plan. So that's going to be my next question. Steve, can you tell us a little bit about how you felt when you realized that, yes, this is happening? And
Yeah, so we had been through a crisis we had 3 businesses in 2013. Our son passed away. And so we had gone through a crisis where you kind of, you didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't know how you're going to feel. In that case, lost all of my energy. I was in bed for 9 months. So we ended up having a fire sale on all of our companies. So I think I was able to kind of draw on that experience. So it was I never panicked. It was very methodical. So, the first thing we did was really, it was all about cash flow, preserving cash flow, and working in 30-day increments, like really breaking it down. So we did 3 different business models, cash projections basically, and everything was triggered. So on we do a review every 30 days. If this happens, then that has to happen, or if that happened, then this. You know what I mean? So it's an if or that kind of thing. So everything. And it takes a lot of anxiety out if you kind of plan for the worst, and you kind of step it, and you're really just working 30-day chunks. Because if you start thinking 6 months, or there's so much is out of your control, then that you're just going to kind of lay in bed and spin your wheels. So I think that was the best thing we did, and it's working for us. Fortunately now we've started hiring people back that we had to let go. So we're on kind of, our trigger on the 16th, the last trigger when we did the review. We said, well, we can hire back 5 people. So we're going to do another one, mid-month this month, and we're going to see if we hire. What looks like we're going to hire more people again. So, but it's a very disciplined kind of approach, and it's all based on cash.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing. Karla, I guess we're going to take it where Steve ended. How did you start your business continuity plan? What was the first point to really help the network members here? We need to look at what were the first points you looked at while drafting or putting ideas for your business continuity plan?
Well, definitely it was cash. Obviously, taking a look at our cash flow. I let go all of my team and the restaurant side, and the pet food stores, they've been fairly stable. So I unfortunately haven't had to lay anybody off. But for the restaurant, I let everybody go with the exception of my general manager. And then we started looking at what are the ways that we can, because obviously people are not allowed to sit down. 80% of my sales are the lunch crowd. So all of a sudden the lunch crowd is not there anymore because they're not working, or they're not working in the office environment. So I try to look at what are the other avenues that I could generate some sales and potentially grow the business. So I literally went to the back of the restaurant and I just like stood up there, and then I'm like, what can I sell? So then my wheels started turning, and then that's when it's like, okay, so I have this big fridge that is full of food that I don't want it to go to waste. So it was almost like a crisis mode, right? Like, I don't want the food to go to waste. Well, I can sell the food. I can sell like the produce. And then that's when the idea, okay, well, we can have that, that other business avenue would be groceries. And then I had a lot of people who started asking me, how can we help? How can we help? And a friend of mine actually said, hey, you know what? I want to help you, and I want to give you $500. Call it, like a pre-catering deposit or something. But I want you to use that money and give away the food to whoever you think, anybody. And then I was like, So, and that's where the idea of like, well, if there's people that are asking me how they can help, there's people that are willing to give me $500 to feed whoever. And my brother's in the healthcare industry. So, and I remember him talking to me a few days prior that he didn't have anything to eat that day because he was so busy in the hospital. So I'm like, bingo, I think this can work. So then I started a fundraising campaign, and where I would use the help from the community to donate meals for healthcare workers. And to this date, we've been able to donate now, we're at 2,800 meals. So again, that's another, another revenue source. And now we're looking at ways of actually increasing our ticket spend by creating different packages and different meal bundles and whatnot, which our average ticket is going from what it used to be $14 to $30. So just honestly, there was no methodical way of looking at business like Steve. I wish I was like that. I'm more of like, shit. Okay. Sorry. Let's think on the go. Let's see, I'm like a what do you call it? A fire aim ready kind of person. So, but I mean, luckily it's worked. And also being very vocal about what we're doing and relying a lot in the community and relying a lot in other peers in the community, like the Ottawa Board of Trade and organizations like this, just so that I don't feel that alone. And also great ideas can come from these groups. So that's a very long-winded answer to many
I love
things.
this answer. Love the details. That's exactly what we're looking for. And going back to methodical Steve, you talked about changing the business model and looking at cash and putting 3 scenarios, right? Can you walk us a little bit about what is different about what you offer now to your clients or customers? How did this reflect on what you're offering? And I also would like you to touch upon, in this time of uncertainty, you don't have the luxury to do market research and kind of assess and measure the response and reaction of the public. So how did you do this on the go while looking at 3 different business models?
Yeah, well, I think, our our customers and our community really told us what they wanted and how we could help is really how it ended up working out for us. So, you know, we quickly started to see gyms that were closed down and had no revenue, but we knew we could help them rent out their treadmills to earn extra income. We knew that people were, you know, needing to make a little bit of money. So we were able to get into some Facebook groups and, you know, tell them about Ruckify and tell them that they could post things that they own and start making money. So that worked quite well. So instead of spending marketing dollars and on Google and buses and all that to tell people about Ruckify, we just started having conversations about Ruckify and how we could help. And then, you know, just helping community groups through the United Way, that was huge in terms of getting earned media, just getting the community talking about us, and that paid off a lot as well. So that's what ended up working out quite well for us to date. So we're fortunate because we can help.
Thank you. Karla, I guess the same question goes to you, particularly in that area, food business, where you might not be so sure of how people will perceive eating, like ordering in, or how they will react to your response and help to the healthcare providers. So how did you kind of assess it? Was it on the go while you're working on it? You're assessing reactions?
Yeah. Also, I my previous life, I was in media relations, so I was able to also generate quite a bit of media. So that actually helped a lot. So doing television interviews and radio interviews and trying to get as much media attention as possible to the good cause that we were doing definitely helped, and it kind of gave me indication that we were in the right path, that what we were doing was resonating with people, and we stuck there. So so definitely earned media was very helpful, and it also helped for creating great goodwill in our business.
Great, thank you. So we talk a lot about competencies and what entrepreneurs should have. I don't like characteristics very much, because some say they are born entrepreneurs. I say no, you can make an entrepreneur. So what competencies do you think you have, or personal traits you have, that made you capable of pivoting quickly, successfully, and finding opportunities during this time of uncertainty?
Steve?
Okay. Yeah, well, I think for me, pretty simple. I have no choice. So, you know, I've got a wife, I've got kids, although the kids are older, but I have responsibilities. I left school in grade 10, very dyslexic. I don't have a degree to fall back on. So really you just got to get out there and you got to figure it out. And I always have. So, and I think that's kind of what entrepreneurs do. So, so I'm fortunate that way. No question about it.
For myself, I'm an immigrant, and I've gone through the difficulties of moving to a completely new country and making a go of it, and trying to survive and adapt, and I think that actually has helped keep my tenacity into business as well, because there's no choice, like Steve says, right? Like there is no choice. You need to figure it out, because if you can't, you need to be able to bend so that you don't break, which is something that a lot of immigrants have to go through as well, trying to like adapt into a new environment and adapt and thinking, okay, what else can we do in order to survive in this new country? And it's very similar, believe it or not, the entrepreneurship life. And when a crisis like this hits, I think, yeah, it's very similar, and that that feeling of survival, that, you know, just like guttural survival, and I'm not letting go because I need to survive. So I guess tenacity and just perseverance and adaptability.
And I think if you have the mindset, you know, there is literally always a way to make it work. It may not be the way you did it yesterday, but there's always a way to find, you just can make anything work. I mean, Elon Musk, look at everything he's done that everybody told him is impossible. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs hear things are impossible and they make it happen. So you just have to have that mindset that you're going to figure out a way, and you will. So.
Yep. So as my last question, before I read the questions that I am receiving on the chat, I'd like to ask the both of you to, if you had one advice to give to entrepreneurs during this particular time, not in general, because I know when it's flowery and rosy, a lot of entrepreneurs are doing well. But now, what advice, one thing or two things they should focus on and keep doing? We'll start with Steve, and we'll go back to Karla.
We did another one, and Karla went first all the time. So, sorry. Anyways, I mean, these are scary times, but they're also exciting times. And when there's a lot of change, there's a lot of opportunity. And I think the sooner that any of us can stop looking backwards and start looking forward, there's a lot of opportunity looking forward. So I think the sooner you can kind of get over the past, because the past is the past. Nothing will be the same. Things will change. But as soon as you can start to think about that and how you adapt your business to meet those needs, everything's going to be okay.
For myself, in situations like these, I've actually been very blessed. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but reaching out, like finding a group of other entrepreneurs like this, and being able to bounce ideas off of, and being able to not feel alone, particularly with all of this, you know, physical distancing. It can get pretty lonely, and it can get very isolating. So for me, it's been critical to belong to some sort of group of other entrepreneurs, so that this doesn't feel as lonely. And the other thing that I've learned, actually, maybe it's the immigrant in me, that if you speak up, people are actually going to listen. Like if there is something that you find, like for example, from some of the government programs, that, you know, there may be some entrepreneurs that are being that are falling through the cracks. Well, if those entrepreneurs don't speak up, the government's not going to know about this, and nobody's going to know about this, and then the problem's not going to be able to get fixed. So for me, it's been really eye-opening how important it is that we let our voices heard, and that we're not afraid of potentially ruffling some feathers, but to speak up, because people are going to listen.
Definitely right, Karla. I can see your comms background coming up here. So, you're right. When we come together as a community and as entrepreneurs, we definitely have the power to make things happen together. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Karla and Steve. I'm going to open the floor to questions from our members here. So either in the chat box. Yeah, go ahead, Helen.
So I really want to compliment both of you. I'm an advisor for Connected Canadians.
Yes.
Steve, and so I know how much you've done in order to help seniors with getting them equipment and so on. I mean, it's fantastic what you've done. And Karla, you're on every page practically that I see, whether it's mentoring immigrants. I mean, you have done a phenomenal job of letting people know, both of you, the good that you're doing. And I think that will stand you in such good stead moving into the future. You know, I may not have gone to Freshii before, but I can assure you I will be there in the future. you know. But I'm just saying what the tack that you've taken is outstanding, and you've given back so generously that I want to thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Tarek.
Hi. I would like to echo Helen's congrats to both Steve and Karla for the entrepreneurship spirit and mindset they are adopting to drive their businesses. And I've seen especially Karla's business, namely Freshii Restaurants, that I love. I love all what you do, by the way, the burritos and this vegetarian sandwiches. Well, this is another discussion. I appreciate how you adapted to the situation, to the restriction imposed by the government, how everybody has to shut down, to close down, and immediately, intuitively, I like this. This is a very good innovation. Just added this new service to deliver the groceries. That's amazing, and that was really very bright of you. And we're seeing even a lot of other businesses adapting to the condition of the market right now and the situation. We're seeing, for example, everybody knows InstaShop or Instacart or DoorDash, delivering food and delivering groceries. Now even Skip the Dishes is introducing the delivery of groceries and start reaching out to members, to vendors that are not restaurants or bars, or now the groceries are merchants for Skip the Dishes. So there's a shift happening in the market, and as mentioned by Steve, the world will never be the same again, even after COVID-19. Even if there will be COVID-20, COVID-21, there will not be. We will not stop social distancing. We will not stop wearing face masks. If we see in the Asian market, they are early in this. Before the COVID-19, they adopted this in the culture, wearing masks everywhere. They have pollution, you know, in India, in some big cities and crowded cities in Asia. Wearing the masks is in their culture. So I think this culture will be adopted by the whole world. Wearing masks, keeping distances, social distancing, even the cultures where we like to greet by kissing on the cheek and hugging, these people suffer. So we started suffering already. So yes, the question to both of you: what kind of businesses are you seeing to be flourishing in the next period? What kind of businesses and what kind of services that will be flourishing? I can mention one because I'm from the digital and telecommunication and technology market. The digital consulting and the digital adoption will have a peak and a higher priority than before. People were living in their comfort zone, but I've been trying to sell digital transformation initiatives for the past 7 years, and the amount of resistance, I mean, you can't imagine. But now everybody is working from home. All the employers are openly offering their employees the possibility to work from home. All the kids from 9 to 99, I would say even from 5 to 99 years old are using Google Classroom and studying from home. So when it comes to the businesses now, if I ask you what kind of business you will see flourishing in the next couple of years, probably. Thank you.
Well, my answer might be a bit self-serving, but I truly believe it. I think rentals, people, you know, if you look at assets, typically we would buy something, you buy a car, you buy a boat, or you buy something, and it turns into a monthly payment or a liability. But with platforms like Ruckify, you can actually turn those assets into revenue generators, and they can become an income stream for you. So I think, you know, we're already wanting to own less. People are already concerned about the environment, and you know, now people are going to be scared to spend money or may not have money to spend. So they're gonna be looking for a.
So we were with you, Steve, talking about the fact that rentals, I agree with you. Rentals are definitely going to be the way to go. I wouldn't want to spend a fortune to buy something, like I'm thinking a boat, if I'm not sure I'm going to use it next summer, right?
Yeah. So either you want to make money, you want to save money, you want to help the environment, or you just want to be a minimalist. You don't have room. People are living in smaller places. So yeah, I think for us, we're extremely excited about the opportunities, obviously. So everything digital, has to be digital.
Steve, you made a brilliant comment earlier about opportunities in this time, right? And one of the things I saw this morning, it just blew me away. There's a guy in Toronto, and I remember all the details because I didn't read the whole article, but this guy in Toronto actually turned an 18-wheeler into a portable grocery store.
I saw that. Yeah.
It was brilliant.
There you go, Karla.
Yeah, I know.
Brilliant.
Yeah. You know what? You have to really, I try to go for walks and you have to get away from digital devices and you have to think. And it's really hard to kind of think of, what's going to be different. Like think about 9/11 and, that was an awful incident, but it didn't impact the world the way this has. And look what's changed with 9/11. Like you think about it every time you go to the airport, so there's a lot has changed in our life from 9/11. So this is going to have a huge impact on the way we live our lives moving forward. A lot's going to change. So you want to try to get ahead of that. And it's going to be, it's going to be a gold rush. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
Keep wide open.
Yeah.
Karla, what do you think are the businesses that are going to thrive?
Yeah, actually, I just wrote a blog post about this. So I honestly think that anything local is going to be huge. I'm in the food industry, so obviously I'm going to talk food. So any micro, like hyper local distribution companies are going to be huge because now everybody is on the buy local. They were before, but now it's going to be even bigger, wanting to support local farms, local growers, local everything. But when you really think about it, there really isn't a big distribution company doing that because people have to go to the individual farms or the individual sellers. But if there's a way to do sort of like an online marketplace for just containing those hyper local products, I think that would be a huge opportunity. The other one that I was talking about is anything cleaning, disinfecting, like a steam or fog company that uses some sort of botanical disinfectant or whatnot, because everybody's going to want to return to their workspaces in a safe way. And there's only so much, like a little Lysol wipe can do. So anything that any commercial cleaning that is portable would be a good idea. And it's an opportunity for ghost kitchens to actually become legal in Canada, which they're not. And for those who don't know what that is basically restaurants without a location. So they only use third parties like Uber Eats and the likes. They just use a commercial kitchen and they operate that just on a delivery basis without the overhead of an actual brick and mortar restaurant. So I think those three are good opportunities.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, I have a comment. I think that I agree with Karla about the pop-up type of kitchens that may be coming in the future. They were already there. I've traveled in this country and in Europe, and it's quite common to see pop-up kitchens that get advertised only in the day that's going to happen, and hundreds of people show up to them sometimes. But I think that maybe I'm missing the boat as an accountant. Maybe because we were already we already deal with people on an impersonal basis. We were already ahead of the curve when it came to technology, and we're already we are not people who are outgoing by ourselves. we're introverts, so we like Zoom more than we like live, right? But maybe those of us who had grandparents who came out of the war can remember being talked about in the kitchen table. These people after the war, my grandparents after the war, all they wanted to do is do better. Let's put behind to us what happened. Let's do better. Maybe there's a baby boom coming up, the COVID babies. I don't know. Maybe that will happen. But I don't think it's as bad as people say in the media that the situation is. I think we are much more fortunate than the people in 1929 because we have all these social networks behind us. I had an interview with a client today who has a medical practice, and they're collecting money. They're paying less rent. They may not have business, but they're collecting money and they're paying less rent. So that did not happen in 1929 and 1930. And in many ways we have learned from those lessons. So I think that there will be opportunities, but we have to remember not to close the door, and say, forget it. I am not going to go out. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do that, because our ancestors did not do that when things like this happened, and we should do the same thing.
Agreed, Eric. Hal, did you have a comment or question?
No, I have both a comment and question. So first of all, I want to definitely echo everyone who complimented and appreciated what you guys have been doing, what you have been going through, and what you have done so far. I personally follow both of you on LinkedIn, and I see the latest of your news, and kudos to you, really doing a great job. I also came across one of the interviews that Karla had on, I think it was on CFRA, if I'm not mistaken, or CBC, I can't remember. And that's how I came to know about the grocery business, so which we started using. And again, that's a great idea, very, very smart. And I, of course, have been to your store before. So, but one thing that I wanted to ask, and I think, I work for a company. So I'm not necessarily an entrepreneur myself, but from a human resources, and maybe Mai would be interested in this question. How do you, as you both said, you've released employees as unfortunately part of the decision that you had to take. Have you thought about what's going to happen next once we turn the corner and you want to bring back? Do you think those kind of relationships established, that you will be able to bring that experience that you have invested in, or do you think that that relationship is gone and you have to start from scratch?
With our staff?
Yeah.
No, I've already contacted the staff because our sales again are growing, and I think the reluctance right now on my side of things from the staff is not the fact that I lay them off. I mean, they understood the reason.
Yeah.
Their reluctance right now is because they don't feel safe yet, right? Because there's still stuff in the news. So their reluctance from coming back is that versus holding a grudge because we laid them off. Yeah, no, I don't foresee that, or I haven't encountered that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think for us, so initially there were 41 people that we had let go. We've hired 5 back now, but we were through the process as kind of who was ramping up to March 13th. We could see issues really about a week before that, and that's when we had started doing different modeling. And we're a very transparent company, so we were very our team knows how much money's in the bank. They know what the runway is. They knew what the possible consequences were. They knew worst case scenario, best case scenario, what the triggered outcomes would be every 30 days. So everybody had that. So I think most people really good, but I have to tell you, I've had to let people go for different reasons over my career. And I think by far, like, this was super, super hard. Like, I lost a lot of sleep because you're letting people go and there's nothing they can go to. Right? So there's not, like, that to me, that's bothered me probably literally more than anything else. So, you know, but yeah, I definitely hope that they come back, and definitely hope we're going to be hiring them all back. That's the plan.
Just a question, I mean, for Karla and Steve, since you had to let some of your employees go, did you look into the possibility of having the CEWS, the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, that covers 75%? So at least you can keep the employees and agree with them that you will be paying them only three quarters of the total wage. What about that?
Yeah, I definitely qualify for that. The problem is when there's not enough work for them, it doesn't really make sense to bring them in, because then I think I would be doing a disservice as well for not, you know, for flattening the curve as well. So there wasn't enough work for them to bring them all back, but we're slowly bringing them as we're ramping up and taking advantage of that wage subsidy.
Great, thank you.
Here, Karla, thank you.
This afternoon, driving back to my house, after visiting a client, the radio had the following news: that the government of Ontario is going to raise the salaries of people working in seniors' homes by $4 an hour. And, you know, that is only a small impact of what we're going to see in the future. Some of the organizations that deal with older people are going to have to clean up their act incredibly. My mother-in-law just passed away, and she was in a highly paid place, and it depended on my wife and my sisters-in-law to go there so that she could get the help that she needed. And this is a place that she was paying $6,000 a month.
Wow.
We agree, Eric,
This
that
is a subsidized thing, right?
We're definitely seeing a lot of changes here. You're right, Eric, on all sides, on government, on businesses, on services. So I definitely echo that. We are seeing a lot of changes, and there isn't a better time during times of changes and uncertainty than to have people like Karla Briones and Steve Cody join us to actually guide us through the process, share their stories. So I'm mindful of your time, Steve and Karla. If you had the time, we would stay with you for 2-3 hours, not just one, because 1 hour is not enough. We ran 10 minutes or 15 minutes over time, and I see it very much as a good sign. People are hungry to listen to entrepreneurs like you, successful ones who weren't only able to survive and pivot, but to find opportunities in this time. So I'd like to thank you very much for sharing with us your stories, your business models. You went through so many details. Steve, I can't thank you enough for walking us through the methodology of things. I come from an academic background, so I love this. I had an introduction of how to bridge the gap between theory and practice, but then I thought it was too academic, but I got what I want still. I got the academic structure answer, so love that. Can't thank you enough. We definitely love to have you again soon when things are changing, so we can look at the landscape and map of the market, and we can draw on your experience and our network's experience to survive as a community together. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a
See you
great
soon.
day.
Thank
Have a good
you.
one.
And thank
Bye-bye.
you, Mai. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a nice day.
You too.
Good energy, like it.